Today, we delve into the dark corners of urban myths and legends. These spine-chilling tales have been whispered in hushed tones and spread like wildfire, often dismissed as mere folklore. But what if I told you some of these terrifying urban legends are rooted in reality? Join us as we uncover 4 urban legends that turned out to be true. In the 1970s, children on Staten Island exchanged chilling stories about a boogeyman named Cropsey. According to the legend, Cropsey, a figure with a hook for a hand, had escaped from a nearby mental institution and lived in its ruins, where he kidnapped and killed children. Initially, Cropsey was just a tale shared around campfires. However, the line between myth and reality blurred as children began to vanish in the 1970s and 1980s, sending Staten Island into a panic. When one girl's body was discovered in a shallow grave on the abandoned Willowbrook State School property, police arrested Andre Rand, a former custodian at the school, who had been living in a makeshift camp on the grounds. Rand quickly became the embodiment of the Cropsey legend. Though he was convicted of kidnapping 2 children, many believe he was responsible for numerous other murders, making him one of Staten Island's most notorious criminals. Born Frank Rochon on March 11, 1944, in Manhattan, Rand grew up in Ithaca and served in the Army in the early 1960s. From 1966 to 1968, he worked as a custodian at Willowbrook State School, a mental institution for children with disabilities. The school closed in 1987 after reports of abuse and neglect surfaced. Rand had left long before its closure, changing his name in 1968 and taking odd jobs while living in shelters, boarding houses, and makeshift camps. Rand's first known kidnapping attempt occurred on May 25, 1969, when he lured a 9-year-old girl into his car and attempted to assault her before being stopped by police. He served 16 months for the attempted assault. After his release, young girls in the area began to disappear. The first was 5-year-old Alice Pereira, who vanished on July 7, 1972, while playing near her home close to Willowbrook. Despite suspicions, there wasn't enough evidence to convict Rand, and Alice was never seen again. In 1981, Rand tried to lure a 9-year-old girl into his car with the promise of a lollipop. She escaped, but Rand wasn't charged. Later that year, 7-year-old Holly Ann Hughes went missing while buying soap in Port Richmond. Witnesses saw Rand's car near the scene, but there was insufficient evidence to arrest him. In 1983, Rand picked up 11 children from a YMCA, bought them food, and took them to an airport to watch planes before returning them hours later. He served 10 months for unlawful imprisonment. After his release, 10-year-old Tia Heese Jackson disappeared while running errands, never to be seen again. Other suspected victims included 18-year-old Audrey Lynn Narenberg in 1977, 42-year-old Ethel Louise Atwell in 1978, and 22-year-old Henry Gafforio in 1984. These disappearances left Staten Islanders in terror, as they seemed to mirror the Cropsey legend. In 1987, Jennifer Schweiger, a 12-year-old girl with Down syndrome, went missing. Her body was found in a shallow grave on the Willowbrook property after a 35-day search. Multiple witnesses saw Rand with Jennifer on the day she vanished, and he was charged with her kidnapping and murder. Though Rand denied involvement, he was convicted in 1988 of Jennifer's kidnapping and sentenced to 25 years to life. In 2004, he was also convicted of Holly Ann Hughes' kidnapping, adding another 25 years to life sentence. Rand remains in prison, denying his guilt and sending bizarre letters, such as a series of Mother's Day messages in 2011, expressing forgiveness to Staten Islanders who supported his prosecution. The 2009 documentary Cropsey, which premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, explored the connection between the urban legend and Rand's crimes. For many, Rand's real-life actions were far more terrifying than any myth. His crimes left an enduring impact on Staten Island, with some locals continuing to search Willowbrook's grounds for other missing children. Donna Coutinho, president of Friends of Jennifer for Missing Children, calls Rand the Hannibal Lecter of Staten Island, stating, "He terrified a whole community. He still haunts us." Be my victim. With these chilling words, an iconic horror figure emerged in 1992's Candyman, the vengeful spirit of a black artist lynched for an illicit relationship with a white woman, the titular Candyman begins haunting Helen Lyle, a graduate student convinced the legend is a myth. She soon discovers that Candyman is terrifyingly real. When summoned by repeating his name into a mirror, he appears and kills his victims with a rusty hook hand. As the story unfolds, Lyle uncovers the tragic history of Candyman while confronting the harsh realities of poverty, police neglect, and drug abuse affecting Black communities in Chicago. Since his film debut, Candyman has evolved into a modern urban legend. His haunting presence and sorrowful backstory have captivated horror enthusiasts, prompting the question, is Candyman real? The true story behind Candyman is even more harrowing than the film. While the movie may seem purely fictional, one tragic event mirrors its horror: the murder of Ruthie Mae McCoy, a mentally ill woman living in Chicago's ABLA homes. On the night of April 22, 1987, Ruthie made a frantic 911 call, claiming someone from the adjacent apartment was trying to enter through her bathroom mirror. Her desperate plea confused the dispatcher, who doubted her sanity. Unbeknownst to the dispatcher, Ruthie was right. Narrow passages between the apartments, originally meant for maintenance access, had become a favored entry point for burglars who pushed through the bathroom cabinets. Despite a neighbor reporting gunshots from Ruthie's apartment, police hesitated to break down the door, fearing legal repercussions. It wasn't until 2 days later that a building superintendent drilled the lock and found Ruthie's body, shot 4 times and lying face down on the floor. The film Candyman draws heavily from this tragic incident. The character's first confirmed victim is Ruthie Jean, a Cabrini Green resident killed by an assailant who entered through her bathroom mirror. Just like Ruthie McCoy, Ruthie Jean was dismissed as crazy by her neighbors, including Anne Marie McCoy, and her pleas for help went unanswered until it was too late. For generations, the tale of the Bunnyman has been a staple of sleepovers, campfires, and Halloween parties in Northern Virginia. According to the legend, the Bunnyman is an ax-wielding killer in a bloody rabbit costume who murders anyone who dares to say his name 3 times while standing beneath the Bunnyman Bridge in Fairfax County, Virginia, at midnight. The story began with 2 minor incidents in 1970 involving a man wearing bunny ears, but it has since evolved into an epic urban legend involving escaped convicts, disemboweled children, and half-eaten rabbits. The details of the legend have varied over the years, with different versions of the killer's history, motives, and appearance. However, one element has remained consistent: the terrifying bunny costume. Over the past 50 years, the Bunnyman tale has inspired numerous variations and creative projects, including a slasher film and a rock opera. But what is the truth behind this infamous legend? According to The Bunnyman Unmasked, a research project by Brian A. Conley, who is a historian and archivist at the Fairfax County Public Library, the story of the Bunnyman began 50 years ago. On October 19, 1970, Robert Bennett, a cadet at the U.S. Air Force Academy, was driving with his fiancée on the rural roads of Burke, Virginia, near midnight. They were returning from a football game and decided to stop and visit Bennett's uncle, who lived nearby. Bennett parked his car in a field across the street from his uncle's house on Guinea Road. As they prepared to get out, they saw something move near the rear window. Suddenly, there was a loud crash, and the front passenger window shattered. A man was standing outside, shouting, "You're on private property and I have your tag number." Bennett quickly drove away, later discovering a hatchet on the floorboard of his car. When he reported the incident to the police, Bennett described the man as wearing a white suit with bunny ears. His fiancée, however, thought he was wearing a white pointed hood. Just 10 days later, the Bunnyman appeared again. On October 29, 1970, a construction security guard named Paul Phillips reported seeing a man in a gray, black and white rabbit costume standing on the porch of a home under construction. Phillips, patrolling the New Kings Park West subdivision on Guinea Road, approached the man around 10:30 p.m. According to a contemporaneous article in the Minneapolis Star, the man told Phillips, "You are trespassing. If you come any closer, I'll chop off your head." The costumed individual then began chopping at a porch post with a hatchet. Phillips left to retrieve his gun, but by the time he returned, the man had vanished into the trees. Phillips described the suspect as about 20 years old, 5 feet 8 inches tall and 175 pounds. News of these incidents spread rapidly, and within 2 weeks, local police had received over 50 reports of sightings of the mysterious Bunnyman. As the story spread, it took on new elements and expanded into a legend. In 1999, a story posted on the Castle of Spirits website documented how the legend had strayed far from the original events. Timothy C. Forbes wrote an extensive tale claiming the story began in 1904 with a bus transporting prisoners from an asylum in Clifton, Virginia, crashing and the convicts escaping. Police found all but 2, Marcus Walster and Douglas Grafon. While searching for the 2, investigators discovered dismembered and half-eaten rabbit carcasses in the forest. Near the Colchester Overpass, now known as the Bunnyman Bridge, they found Walster's body with a handmade hatchet in his hand. According to the legend, the Bunnyman began appearing to people in the tunnel beneath the bridge. On Halloween night, 3 teenagers were drinking in the tunnel when a bright flash appeared at midnight. Seconds later, they were found hanging from the overpass, their throats slashed and bodies disemboweled. The following Halloween, 6 more teenagers met the same fate. Over the years, people avoided the tunnel on Halloween, but occasionally a brave group would test the legend and die the same horrible death. Conley's research debunked this version of events. There is no record of such murders in the county, and there has never been an asylum in the area. The Bunnyman legend did not appear in local news until 1970. Despite having no basis in fact, this embellished story has persisted over the decades. When someone mentions government mind control, you might immediately think of programs like MK Ultra, but would you ever expect an arcade game targeting teenagers to be part of such a scheme? According to the urban legend of Polybius, that's precisely what happened in several Portland, Oregon arcades in the 1980s. In the 1980s, Portland was a test market for new arcade games. It was common to see arcade machines with placeholder titles or no titles at all. Arcades back then had a reputation for being seedy, with drug use and illegal gambling rings often associated with them. This is the backdrop for the legend of Polybius. As the story goes, a mysterious new game called Polybius appeared in several arcades across Portland. This game was unlike anything anyone had seen before, and it quickly became addictive. There's even a Reddit thread where someone claims to have played the game back in 1981. Video game addiction isn't a new phenomenon, but Polybius reportedly caused more than just addiction. Players experienced migraines, seizures, nausea, high stress levels, and even nightmares. Some claimed they felt they could no longer control their own thoughts. People also reported seeing men in black suits frequently servicing the Polybius machines. These men seemed uninterested in collecting the coins from the machines and focused only on the data the machines had gathered. The game was only available in 2 arcades for a short period before it vanished without a trace. The legend of Polybius first surfaced in an online forum in 1998 on Usenet, an early version of the internet. Since then, the story has been circulated online, in articles, and even documentaries. Popular TV shows like The Simpsons have referenced Polybius. While some people believe Polybius was a real game in 1981 designed to manipulate the behavior of its players, others are convinced it's purely a myth. The most convincing myths are often rooted in reality. Many arcades in the 1980s were suspected of running illegal gambling rings, and government officials were frequently seen investigating these establishments. Reports of people getting physically ill from playing video games are also true, with documented cases of migraines, seizures, and even deaths due to video game addiction. Additionally, the U.S. government did conduct mind control experiments with the MK Ultra project as late as 1973. It's easy to see how such an urban legend could take hold. The legend of Polybius has inspired numerous stories and even video games. Recently, a game with the same title was released on the PS4 with a scheduled release on Steam in late 2018. Although no one has been able to accurately describe what the original Polybius game was like, whether it was a shooter, a puzzle game, or a side-scroller, its influence continues to spark creativity and fascination. What do you think about these urban legends? Do you think they are true, or are people just fitting stories into these legends to make them true? Let me know in the comments your thoughts.